Right. So,
What would you do if you
when you
see a
picture
sea
sea
lion
lions, you're
behaving
probably thinking
strangely?
of
Comment it below.
those playful barking guys you see down at the pier, right?
Yeah, those iconic California
Right, you get.
sea lions. Yeah.
But lately down there along the Southern California coast, things have been uh, a little different, shall we say.
Yeah, a little bit.
There have been all these reports of sea lions acting really aggressively.
Is it the cause
I mean,
of
some people are
climate
even
change?
saying, get this, demonic.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's definitely making headlines. And, well, you know us, we're not just going to stop at, oh, that's weird. We're going to figure out what's really going on.
We're going to deep dive into this for sure.
That's right, a full deep dive into why this change is happening.
Absolutely, yeah. So we've been checking out a ton of news reports, and we've got some great info straight from the experts at the Marine Mammal Care Center in Los Angeles.
Oh, nice.
And of course, NOAA, always a great resource.
Absolutely, yeah.
So today, our mission, if you will, is to get past the whole scary sea lion thing and really understand the science behind these attacks. What's actually causing this?
Yeah, because when those first reports started coming out, it was really jarring.
Yeah.
Like you said, these animals are usually pretty chill, but people were using words like demonic. Something just seemed off.
Yeah, way off.
So what is it? What's the science saying about what's behind this huge shift in behavior?
So the biggest thing that keeps popping up, something we've talked about before in other contexts too, is toxic algae blooms.
Oh, interesting.
It
If
seems like
toxic
what we're
algae bloom
seeing with
comes
these
out,
sea lions is
that is a
directly
sign
tied to them getting poisoned
of a
with
big
domoic
disaster.
acid.
Okay, so
Is it true?
domoic acid poisoning, let's unpack that a little.
Okay.
How does that even work? How does
Yeah.
it turn these normally pretty friendly creatures into, the creatures from the headlines?
Right, right.
I mean, the real story isn't aggressive sea lions, is it? It's sea lions in trouble because of something in their environment.
That's exactly it. So domoic acid toxicosis, that's the technical term, happens when marine animals eat fish that have basically a buildup of this toxin in their system. Okay. The toxin itself comes from a type of algae called pseudonychia.
Pseudomycia.
Yeah, it's microscopic algae that makes this domoic acid. And small fish, like anchovies and sardines,
Which sea lions love.
oh, they gobble them up.
Yeah.
But those little fish eat the algae. And that's how the domoic acid starts to build up in the food chain.
So it's like toxic seafood, basically.
Yeah, pretty much.
The sea lions are getting a huge dose of this domoic acid every time they eat.
Every time, yeah. And the thing is, these toxic algae blooms, they seem to be happening more and more in Southern California.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they're getting worse, too. More intense.
Wow, so this isn't like a brand new thing then, right?
You're right, it's not.
Yeah.
NOAA has records of this being a problem for at least the last 4 years.
Mhm.
But what's happening now, it's like it's all been dialed up.
So it's been a steady problem, and now it's a big problem.
Exactly.
So what's going on in the environment to make these blooms so much worse?
Well, a lot of it has to do with, and this might sound strange, but nutrient-rich water.
Really? How does that cause a problem?
So the California coast naturally has something called upwelling.
Upwelling.
It's where cold water from deep down rises up to the surface. And that deep water, it's packed with nutrients,
Okay.
which is usually a good thing. It helps all sorts of life thrive.
Right, yeah.
But sometimes those nutrients can go into overdrive, and that's when you get these crazy phytoplankton blooms, including, you guessed it, our friend, the pseudonychia.
Oh, so a natural process is basically backfiring?
Yeah, I know.
So it's like upwelling is feeding these toxic algae.
You got it.
And then, well, we talked to John Warner, the CEO of the Marine Mammal Care Center, and he really helped paint the picture of how this all impacts the sea lions,
Oh, yeah, he was great.
didn't he?
Yeah, he did a fantastic job explaining how the domoic acid builds up in those anchovies and sardines, the sea lion's favorite food.
Right, they're staple. And then, and this is where it gets really scary, he talked about what that toxin does to the sea lions' brains.
Yeah, the neurological effects.
That's what's causing this weird aggression.
Right. It's not that they're suddenly mean or anything. It's a symptom, a neurological problem.
So it's like messing with their brains and nervous systems.
Exactly.
That would explain the disorientation and,
What's going
even
on?
the aggression.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Warner talked about seizures, confusion,
Oh.
just a general sense of being completely disoriented. So it's crucial to understand these attacks, they're not malicious.
Right, they're not doing it on purpose?
No, they're scared.
Right.
Their senses are all messed up, probably having seizures. They're not themselves.
So it's actually a really sad situation for these animals.
It's heartbreaking.
And then when you look at the numbers from the Marine Mammal Care Center,
Oh, yeah.
This year, it's just staggering how many
So
animals
are
are being
humans the
affected.
reason?
It is. It's really concerning. So just by the end of March, they had already taken in 195 sea lions with confirmed domoic acid poisoning.
195, wow.
And for
Oh.
context, that's almost 4 times the number they had at the same time last year, in 2024.
That's a huge jump.
Yeah, it is.
And it's not just that there are more sea lions being affected. The center's saying that the symptoms seem worse this year, too.
That's what they're seeing, yeah.
Like more unpredictable behavior.
Right.
And even more sea lions arriving in comas or barely
Have you
responsive.
experienced such
It
things?
really seems like the neurological effects are more intense this time around. Makes you wonder if maybe the blooms themselves are stronger or the toxin is more concentrated or something.
Yeah, something's changed.
Something's definitely different.
We should also talk about the overall sea lion population off the California coast. It's way bigger now than it used to be, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, back in the 1920s, there were only about 1,500 California sea lions.
1,500.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about. But today, there are about 250,000. So even if the percentage of sea lions getting sick stays the same, there are just way more sea lions out there that could potentially be affected.
And more chances for them to run into us.
Sadly, yeah.
And when you hear stories from people who have been affected, it really drives home the impact. Like the photographer, R.J. Lomandola, he was actually attacked by a sea lion. And this is a guy who's been surfing in those waters for 20 years.
Oh, it's years.
Crazy, right?
Yeah.
And he was even diagnosed with PTSD afterwards.
Yeah, it must have been terrifying.
But what really struck me was how he described the sea lion. He said it was sick, it's mind-warped by this poison.
Yeah, he recognized what was really going on.
He knew it wasn't just a mean animal, it was a sick animal. And he even said he felt sadness as well as fear when he realized what was probably happening.
It's really tragic.
It is. And then you have these other incidents like the 15-year-old girl who was attacked during a lifeguard swim test.
Oh gosh.
That really highlights the public safety issue here. It's not just about protecting the sea lions, it's about protecting people too.
Oh my gosh.
Right. And that's where places like the Marine Mammal Care Center come in. They're the ones on the front lines trying to help these animals.
So what do? How do they treat a sea lion that has domoic acid poisoning?
Well, the first thing is to stabilize them, get those intense symptoms under control.
Okay.
So they use anti-seizure meds to help with the neurological stuff.
Right.
And sometimes sedation if the animal's really distressed. And then there's the supportive
Will this
care,
work
like
out?
tube feeding to make
I
sure
don't
they're
think so.
getting nutrients.
So they're really trying to nurse them back to health.
Absolutely. Giving them the best possible chance.
And what are the chances of recovery? Do most of them pull through?
It's tough to say for sure, but right now they're estimating a 50 to 65% chance of full recovery.
So it's a coin toss almost.
Yeah, pretty much. But that does mean that the treatment can make a big difference.
That's good to hear.
It is. Although even the sea lions that do recover, some of them still have these subtle neurological symptoms weeks later. Like they might be a little lethargic or seem a bit disoriented. It shows you how powerful this toxin is, how long-lasting the effects can be.
It's scary to think about.
It is.
So this all really boils down to these toxic algae blooms, right?
Yeah, it all comes back to that.
And the experts are really stressing that we need to be more aware of this problem and start doing more to address it.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the sea lions, it's about us too. It's about protecting the whole ecosystem, including the humans who rely
That's
on
what-
it.
So the big takeaway for everyone listening today is this. Those stories you're hearing about demonic sea lions, it's not that they're suddenly turning evil or anything. These are sick animals.
Yeah.
They're suffering from neurological damage because of these toxic algae blooms. They're confused, they're scared, they're not acting like themselves. It's a really sad reminder of how much our actions can impact the environment and the creatures that live in it.
That's a really good point. And it raises a really important question for all of us to think about. You know, these blooms, they're often linked to things like agricultural runoff, wastewater, even climate change, things that we have a hand in. So what are we going to do about it?
That's a great question.
I think it's a climate
what
change.
responsibility do we have, not just to the sea lions, but to the whole ocean to keep it healthy? It's something to really think about.
Thanks.